Flash CS6 Classroom in a Book. Now, Adobe Flash CS6 Classroom in the Book is the official training guide from Adobe Systems that will help you understand how to use Adobe Flash to create the animations that you see on the web, from things that are used for things like web banners to Facebook games to even things like using it to create iOS apps or Android apps. Adobe Flash CS6 can also be used to create HTML5 animation. So without further ado, let us begin by opening up our Adobe Flash and starting it up. Now, this book, this training series can be bought from Amazon, or you can get it from your local library. And along with the book comes a DVD-ROM which has all the lesson files. So there are a total of 10 lessons. So you get 10 lessons in the CD, the DVD, and in the DVD there's always the completed lesson as well as the lesson files that allow you to start up the lesson to complete it. So for today, we are going to go into Flash Professional CS6. Now, the lessons that we are doing can be used in Adobe Flash Professional CS5 because apart from a few of the more advanced features, they are essentially the same. So I'm going to open up the end product to show you what is the end product that we're going to create today. So this end product that we're going to create, okay, so I'm going to come over here and I'm going to show all. So this is what we're going to do, and I'm going to click over here to test the movie, and this is what we're going to get. It's a very simple animation which shows something like a few pictures and a word and some words to welcome you to Coney Island. And for those who don't know about Coney Island, there's a fantastic hot dog restaurant there called Nathan's, which holds the annual hot dog eating contest, a very famous one. Okay, so how we got to create this? Okay, so let's just close this file, and we got to just start out here by choosing File, New, and over here we can see that there's a new document here. Now, over here we got to make sure that we got to choose ActionScript 3. ActionScript 3 is the latest version of Flash's scripting language. ActionScript 2.0 is there for backwards compatibility, but most people who create animation now would use ActionScript 3. You can also target platforms like Adobe Air for Android, or Adobe Air for iOS or Flashlight, which will be, so for these platforms here, we'll go over it in the last lesson or so on how to develop apps for these platforms. Okay, so very simply, we just gotta start the lesson by learning how to change the width. So I'm gonna come over here and gonna type 800, and then for the height, I'm gonna just choose. Okay, notice I can drag using my mouse as well. It's called brushing. Okay, so I'm gonna choose 600 over here. Width will be 800. Okay, so you got 800 by 600, and for the background color, we'll leave it as the default or white, and we can always change this later. Okay, so then we say okay, and this is what we have here. Now, we want to see the full stage, just click on Show All. Okay, so now we got to do a save as. Okay, and we've got to come over to, and we just got to come over to desktop, hold on, desktop, okay, Actions, Flash, Lessons, and we've got to save it in the same folder as our start folder over here, and we've got to call it 01 working copy. And got to click Save. Now, as we start out, we need to go through some of the basics. For example, this gigantic white spot here is called the stage. Then the stage is anything that's on the stage is what is seen by the viewer, the user. If you put some object over here on the gray area here, the user will not be able to see it. On the bottom here, which is the timeline, you can see over here, notice that I can create new layers here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Notice there are lots of layers here, and as well I can delete layers by clicking on the trash can. Along this part here, where it has numbers 1 to 5 all the way to 80 here, this is called the timeline. Over here, in this panel here, this is called the properties inspector or the properties panel, and this is called the library panel. Over here, this is called the workspace selector. You can configure your workspace according to your needs. For example, if I set it as essentials, this is the default layout. If I'm more into animation, I can set the layout to look like this because it tries to optimize and bring tools that an animator would use the most often. You can also use classic, which is the classic layout. Or you can use debug, which is a layout for use in debugging, and many more. There's designer, developer, that sort of thing. Okay, so let's say I want to go back to essentials, so I just click the essentials keyword there, and I'm back to the essentials workspace. Now, for example, another thing that every developer might have his own personalized workspace. So if you want something that's personalized, for example, you want to have this open, for example, or I want to have, for example, the actions panel open over here. So I can even drag it to my workspace here, and notice there is a icon here where it was not there. Okay, so let's say I'm satisfied with this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to say new workspace, and this is my new workspace. So I can just type in here anything that I like. I can type in, so I can just say, for example, I say this is my workspace, and I click OK, and notice over here the name has changed, and you can choose my workspace. This white area here is called the stage. So if I want to view, zoom in, I can just zoom in to 200% or 400% or 800%. I can do a show all. I can do a show frame, or I can choose fit in window. Okay, so that is the stage and how we can view it. So again, we're going to move on to another feature of the stage property. So I'm going to come over here now. Make sure you don't select anything over here. Now notice over this part here, this says is the FPS, which is the frame rate in which our animation is set. This is the width and this is the height. So the width is 800 and the height is 600. Okay, so now notice the stage is white. We can even set the color of the stage to something else. For example, I can set it to gray, for example, 33333. So notice you can change the properties of the stage. Now over here on the right is this thing called the library panel. Now the library panel is where we store items that we use or assets that we use in our animation. Now how do we import stuff into our library? Now notice there's nothing here, so we just come over to File, Import to Library. And we gotta go to the Start Lesson. And we gotta choose Lesson 1. And go to Start Panel. Now notice there's all these pictures over here. So I'm just gonna choose photos 1, 2, and 3. We're not going to choose the rest. Okay. Photo 4 will be used later, so I just say open. Notice over here in the library panel, there are now 3 panels here. Oh, I forgot one more, which is the background. So don't worry, no worries about that. So I'm going to import background. So I got background, photo 1, photo 2, photo 3. Now, as you can see, these are all the JPEG image with the file names there. And if I click on it, there is actually a file preview of all the different pictures here. Okay. So I'm going to select the background picture here, and I'm going to drag it to the center of my stage. Now, to make sure that it is right in the middle of my stage, I can just come here and I choose the align. So I'm going to align to stage, center, and center again. And this allows us to center this picture very nicely in our stage here to use as the background image. Over here is our timeline. Now the timeline measures the time in frames, and these are the different frames that we have in our animation. And you can change the content on the stage for different frames. At the bottom here, this shows the number of frames that we have, and this is the frame rate, and this is how many elapsed time there is. So for example, I can just insert a frame here. Notice the change in numbers here. This tells us we're in frame 11, and in time is 0.7 seconds, 28 seconds, 8 seconds, 1 second exactly at frame 25. And further on, it will increase the frame rate. The icons here on the left here is the show or hide all layers. Notice when I click on this, it hides the layer. And when I click on the lock sign, that means I cannot alter the layer at all. This here, over here, that says layer 1, this is the name of the layer. So we should normally try to put a very descriptive name for all the different layers. Don't leave it as layer 1, 2, and 3, because when we come back to our project, we might not know what's layer 1, layer 2, and layer 3. So just come here and type background. Okay, so we've got to lock this layer. So this prevents us from accidentally making changes to it. And the pencil says that we can't make any edits because the layer is locked. Now, how do we add a layer? So now we can click on this icon over here, but we can also do it from the insert menu. So I can say insert timeline layer. So let's change the name of the layer. So let's double click this layer 7 and call it photo 1. Okay, so let's select photo 1. Okay, hold on, and I'm going to just delete this out of this frame. So I'm just going to select this one, right click, and remove frames over here. So it's easier for us to follow the tutorial. And now we got to drag photo 1 onto the stage. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to drag photo 1. Sorry, I need to select this frame first. Okay, so there we have it, photo 1. And then we got to put another layer above it, which is called photo 2. Now, this prompts us whether you want to save, auto-save, and I'm going to say yes, because it's always good to save our work. So far we have the background, and we have this picture of this, this parachute ride here. So now we got to learn how to insert frames. So we got to select frame 48 in the background layer. And we got to choose insert timeline frame. Notice there's a keyboard shortcut F5. So we can choose F5 to insert more frames. So there we have it. Let's go on to photo 1. Okay. Okay, another way to insert frame, you can just also right click and you can say insert frame. And there it is, frame 48. And finally, we can do the same for photo 2 layer as well. So notice our animation here, we are at frame 48 and the FPS is 24. So what this means that our animation will take 2 seconds to complete. Now the next thing to know is how to create a keyframe. Now a keyframe indicates a change in the content of the stage. Keyframes are indicated on the timeline as a circle. An empty circle means there's nothing in that particular layer at that particular time. A filled-in black circle means there is something on that layer at that particular time. The background layer, for example, contains a filled frame. And the both layers also contain photos. Photo 2, however, continues to be an empty keyframe because it's indicated by the white color. Okay, so I'm going to come over here, choose layer 2, frame 24. And I'm going to click on Insert Timeline Keyframe. And the keyboard shortcut for this is also F6. So notice there's a new keyframe there, which appears in photo 2 layer. So the next thing is we got to create a new frame at frame 24 in the photo 2 layer. So over here, and we got to come over here to take photo 2 JPEG to the stage. So notice there's another layer. And notice when there's something in the timeline, it becomes grayed out. Now notice what we got to do next. We got to take this red line here, which is called the timeline indicator, the red playhead, to scrub it to see how the animation changes. Okay, so photo 2 only comes when we hit frame 24. Now you must learn how to understand frames and keyframes because that is one of the basics in Flash. Now the next thing to do is to learn how to move keyframes. So the one very simple way is to select this frame and then you just drag it and notice it has moved. See, so we can actually move this one over here to frame 12. So that's a way to move keyframes. If you want to remove keyframes, do not use the delete key. What you want to do is select the keyframe and choose Modify Timeline Clear Keyframe. With your keyboard or with a keyboard, and you can be removed from the timeline. Now Flash has different layers, so you must also learn how to organize the layers as well. So let's learn how to create layer folders. So select the photo 2 layer and we're going to click another new layer here. We're going to call this photo 3. Come to frame 24. And we got to click here, insert keyframe. And we got to take photo 3 to the stage. So now we have 4 layers, and the top 3 layers have pictures of Coney Island. select the photo 3 layer, and we got to click a new folder icon, which is the one over here. Okay, we got to just call this photos. So the next thing is how do we move these layers into a folder? So we just come here and just drag it. So notice I can do this and this. I can move this one here and this one here. It's about the same. We can also change the timeline at presence by if our timeline is too long, we can just choose medium, or we can choose small, depending on how much we want to see in the timeline. So now, when we have this folder here, it's very simple to manipulate. So you can just click on the eye icon to make it to turn off the layers, and I can press it again and it turns back on. Now, always try to learn how to use Control C, Control V, Control X, or Command X, Command C, Control V to learn how to cut and paste, because cut and paste is one of the most useful tools you could ever use on a computer. Okay, so next we got to learn how to use the Properties Inspector. So let's go to front frame 1 of the timeline. Okay, I'm going to select this. Photo 1, frame 1. Okay, so we got this one here, frame 1. Okay, and then we got to select the blue JPEG. Okay, so what else can we do here? We can actually manipulate our photos here. So we got to select photo 1. We got to come over here and select photo 1. And the properties, we got to type here 50, 50, and there you have it. We move this. Okay, what else can we do? We can choose transform. Rotate, I'm going to type negative 12 degrees. And okay, so now that we've done that, we've got to select next picture in our animation, which is the photo of Nathan's hot dog stand. So we've got to choose photo 2, frame 10. Sorry, frame 12. And I'm going to select this. Okay, so I'm going to select this over here. And I'm going to set the size. I'm sorry. So I'm going to change the coordinates here. So I'm going to just type 50 and 50. I'm going to choose a way to twist it, turn it around. So I'm going to choose window, transform. I'm going to set the rotation to of 6. So notice over here, this is our panels menu. So we can choose all sorts of different panels for us to use in our animation. So let's select frame 24 on the photo tree layer. And we're going to select this one. And over here, we got to just select photo 3 and move it here. Doesn't seem to be working. Hold on, let's try have a look. There it is. I just happened to turn up the layer. Let's set the properties of X to 120, Y is 55, and we'll come over to transform, and rotate will be -2. The next thing to learn is how to use the tools panel. Now over here, this is our tools in our tools panel. So it helps us to work with all the selecting and use the different tools. Okay, so what we'll do is that we'll learn to use the text tool. So we've got to select the top layer. We've got to create a new layer here. Got to call this text. Come over here, this frame 36. And we got to choose this timeline here, and we got to insert timeline keyframe. Select the text tool. Make sure it's classic text. And over here it says dynamic static text here. Now, classic text is used for simple text that doesn't require things like multiple columns or wrapping and things like that. Dynamic text is for special text options for more interactive purposes and can be controlled with action script. Okay, so over in the properties inspector here, we'll just take this font. And for color, I'm going to just choose something like maybe, who knows, maybe I'm going to just take blue, for example. And we can even change things like the transparency of items here. So if I choose this color, I can even choose the transparency. So I got to choose this frame 36 in the text layer. I'm just going to type here, welcome to Coney Island. Wish you were here. Okay, so that's it. So let's make it bigger by scrubbing the size. And there we have it. Okay, horrible color. We can try this. Okay, so that's it. That's our animation. So what else is there to learn here? So let's just do a test. Control test movie and test. That's our animation here. Now if we want to undo, we can always choose undo transform, which Command Z, or we can open to our history panel here, and notice there are all sorts of selections here which I can change to undo. To preview our movie, we just type Control Test Movie Test. What else is there to see now? If I click on the stage here, notice there's a Swift history that tells you exactly when I saved this file. Now, what else can we do? Okay, so we got properties here. We can even change the size of our stage. So we can come over here. We can type in 400 by 300. And that is the size of our stage. We can also set the width of our document over here in the document settings. So if we change our scale of an item, we can even do things like scale content with stage. So if I didn't like what I did just now, okay, so I'm just going to show you again. So I'm going to show you the history. So this was our scale. So this is what we did. So we can set this setting like this. For example, 400 by 300. And I choose scale content with stage. So notice it scales it to the stage. So Flash allows us to resize everything here. File save as. And we can say working copy resized. Now Flash is an autosave feature. So you can set it here in, okay, so I'll come over to the properties inspector and I can come over here. Notice there is an autosave that says save every 10 minutes. So I can send it to maybe save every 15 minutes, for example. And it will always prompt me to save the file. Now the auto recovery works a little different from the auto save. The auto recovery is a preference that sets flash application of all documents, while the auto save feature is specific for each document. Auto recovery feature saves a backup file, so that in each case of crash, you have an alternate file to return to. So you can come over here, File, Flash, Preferences. Make sure you choose General. I can choose Auto Recovery. Click OK. So we look at our Finder. There's the file here. So after 10 minutes, it will create a recovery file. Finally, the last few things to do is to save it as an XFL document. Now, an XFL document is a flash file, but it's saved in an incompressed format. And XFL is actually a folder of files rather than a single document. And what it does is that it allows us to export, to manipulate the flash movie so that other developers can edit our file and manage its assets without having to open the file as a flash application. So let's do this. File, Save As. And we got to come here and say 01, working copy, but type would be uncompressed, and save. So let's open this working copy folder here. And if you go to library, you can see all the different photos here. And we got to come over here. We got to copy this file here. And come here and we got to paste it here. This photo here, the Ferris wheel, we will delete this one. And we got to call it photo 3 here. So let's close this one and let's see what happens now. Notice the picture here has been changed without us using Flash to edit it. Okay, so finally when we're ready to share our movies, we publish it in Flash. So we choose File, Publish Settings, and we can set our settings here. Make sure Flash and HTML wrapper is selected. Choose HTML wrapper. And we're going to choose deselect the loop. And I'm going to just open up the Flash dialog box here. So notice over here, So let's just publish and see what happens. Notice these two files here have been created. There's a HTML file and a Swift file. So notice what happens if I double click this, it will actually open it inside the browser for me. And there you have it. That's our animation. Thank you very much and see you in the next lesson.